Dear Harstem, I'm a big fan of your YouTube channel and a regular Twitch viewer. Even your knowledge could not guide me to victory in this game though. The Zerg plays extremely safe the whole game, pool first, very late forward base, and yet he never falls behind in any way. It is impossible to attack into this playstyle because they have too many units in the early mid game, and in the late game there is creep everywhere. I am just not allowed to move my army or expand until I inevitably have to spell out GG. Thank you for showing this imbalance to the world, Aki. Welcome to another episode of Is it Imba or Do I Suck, where we have Aki from the... I hope he's from the UK. Or maybe it's just because the letters UK are in there. But for some reason I believed him to be from the UK. The server at least is Europe. So from now on this guy's going to be British. Our boy Aki in the Pig Pan. It's I believe the clan of Pig, another content creator. A lot of the people that send in replays to IODIS have been in the Pig Pan. They all sucked so far, so if I hope Aki might be able to change my mind on everyone in the Pig Pen, but so far every single one of them has sucked. So we're gonna see an SCV scout. He sees the pool first. Like I said, pool first, late forward base, and yet impossible to attack into this playstyle, which, you know, those are big claims. Those are big claims. Impossible to attack into a playstyle. Now, it's not very often that I hear something like that, because every playstyle, of course, has its downside. Now, I'm also curious to see what the playstyle of the Zerg is going to be. Like, is it going to be something revolutionary that we have never seen before? Or is it just going to be standard Link Bane Muda, Hydra Bane, perhaps? We'll have to see. A couple of links, of course, we'll be able to shoo this SCV away. Let's have a look at the build order here of our of Mr. Aki here. See if he's gonna take a fast third command center. On a map like Submarine, a lot of the time you'll see a faster second gas around 220. And you don't see the straight command center as much. Factory goes down. Yeah, refinery. Makes a lot of sense, honestly. It's such a small map. Roach rushes are quite common. This is one of the better Terran maps, though. So a lot of Zergs will actually attack on this with like an early roach all-in or that kind of stuff. So Terran needs to be a little bit afraid. Perhaps get an early tank. Or play Hellion Banshee is also fine, of course. Two links are on the other side of the map already. Reaper stays at home. Wait, what? What happened here? So, this is something I've never actually seen before. The way you're supposed to play if you play Barracks Gas is you play Barracks or Reaper Marine, then Reactor, and then you can just swap the factory. But he went for 2 Marines. I'm not quite sure, but this is not the build order as I know it. It's just a small difference, but just something to keep in mind. Alright, first Mew goes down, Starport starts, as well as Stim on the way. A little bit of oversaturation in the main, and not a lot of scouting info yet here, right? He doesn't really quite know what he's up against, Mr. Aki. He's gonna move out with the first 2 Hellions. Of course afraid of run-bys as well, as he knows there's links out on the map already, doesn't know quite where they are. 30C should come down soon. Then we're gonna see how many cars it's going to be. Is it gonna be 4? Is it gonna be 6? Perhaps even 8. Well, he's playing Bio, so most likely not going to be 8. Most likely just going to be 6 cars or 4 cars. Actually, it looks to be 4 cars. And then we'll see a command center go down, followed up by 2 barracks, most likely. SCV production looking solid indeed. As the 4 Hellions keep moving in, 30C comes down. And there's quite some creep being spread already. I mean, nothing really has been killed so far. 2 tumors. But not just a very standard game, honestly, for a start. Viking starts working at things, and we have Overlord Scout coming in for Della Beta. Bit of a supply block. Well, not a bit of a supply block. This is a big supply block, alright? This kind of thing actually matters. This is a full supply block, is what I like to call it. As he's full supply block, he also loses 2 Hellions. But that won't actually get him out of the supply block. He's still pretty supply blocked. You see his SCVs in building. So he should have had a couple of more SCVs already. Like the full supply block is basically when you only start the depots after you've gotten supply block. So you hear the we need more supply, and then you go like, oh crap, I need to build depots, rather than the anticipation. So that's gonna cost you most of the time an SCV and a half, right? Every single time that happens. So you could have had a little more workers already. We see double eBays on the way, no worker production on the natural, starting at 520. I think we should run a timer for how long CCs don't build SCVs here, because that's actually kind of a big deal. I feel like he might have missed some earlier as well. Main also not building, so that doubles up the timer, twice the speed right now. eBays are starting. I mean, this is the type of thing you see a lot, right? People are confused as to why they can't kill the other guys. Like, oh, he's playing so safe. Well, you're not playing safe, you're just macroing poorly right now as well, you know? Like, so the other guy can play as safe as he wants, as long as he's just spamming his larva in some kind of way. He's kind of gonna be fine. All right, SCV start again. We'll keep the timer on just in case later on he'll stop building SCVs again, which might actually. All right, this is triple. Jesus, that's really bad actually. If you have triple CCs and you're not producing anything with any of the orbitals, that's not good. Now, there is a build where you get triple CCs and then just use the mules. But with that build, you build 4 barracks at the same time. So you cut workers very early, 4 barracks at the same time. And then you try to hit very hard with 1-1 and 5 barracks production really early. That's not the case. So it's definitely a mistake here. We see the Hellions have achieved truly nothing. 3 Hellions died, killed 8 Lynx, Overlord died to the Viking, and 3 tumors have gone down. So... I mean, he's still pretty much in the dark as to what's happening here. His first move out is gonna be a little bit late. He's floating 900 minerals. So is the Zerg, but we're not here to judge the Zerg player. We're here to judge the Terran player. So the question is, hey, what would have happened here if he actually would have spent this money? Now, we can translate this money perhaps in, what is it, 15, 16 more Marines, something like that. That probably would have been quite helpful in this army. Well, quite helpful. It probably would have just straight up won him the game. Now, of course, it's not a one-to-one translation money to Marines, but I think at this timing he probably could have had 10, 12 more Marines, 2 more Medevacts as well. What? This is the goodie way. So there was this famous meching Terran who used to trick people that he actually had good macro, and he did it by building CCs or queuing up 4 units at the same time, and he'd only play mech as well. Good old goodie. Yeah, this is not how you're supposed to play, but I still prefer this over floating the money. So a lot of the time people will just be floating 1500 resources. It's still better to build something with it, even though, you know, it's like tricking yourself that you're macroing better. But I don't really mind the extra CCs. That's fine. That's completely fine. So actually our Terran here is in a pretty decent position on that thing. He has a decent amount of units. He has tanks in nice spots. He can scan some of these creep tumors away. Now, the thing we're really missing is a lot of workers, though. This army gets cleaned up, but this shouldn't have been the biggest of deals. I'm having difficulty finding my words here, because he should not be at 51 workers at 9 minutes. If we compare this to any other pro game, or just any game in which nothing happens to the economy, I think we're gonna see a Terran that's gonna be at least at 65, maybe even 72, 73 workers, with the fort base probably already going and saturated. I've seen Innovation play games, definitely with Bio, where he's up to 80 workers at this point already. This should be floating towards the fort base and be building into a planetary. This should be being built into an orbital. 2-2 is on the way, which is fine. We see no second factory yet. So the way you want to be playing in TVZ is usually, whenever you're building a fort base, is that you play 5 racks, second factory, and then you go... you get the second factory while you're building your fort base. You don't go 6 racks. So this one is a little bit late. It's not the biggest of deal, but just a small note. Also, he hasn't done any harassment whatsoever. Very common in this matchup is to do the frontal push and then have a drop on the side. The both clear creep there, and to make sure that the... Don't do that, please. And to make sure that the Zerg... is a little bit distracted, and maybe you can do some damage, you know. You can clear creep at 2 sides at the same time. He completely stopped his tank production, and he went straight into drilling claws. Now, this is the sign of someone who has no clue what he's doing. And just copy the pro player, which I'm not even necessarily opposed against. Oh, decent splits. I can live with that, I can live with that. Probably should just move back though, as I don't think he can fight, but the splits weren't that bad. So, what I'm trying to say here is that he's seen a top player go second factory, drilling claws and mines, and he gets the reactor on this factory as well. But that was either against Ling Bane or Ling Bane Muta. If you're playing against Hydra Bane, you'll see almost every Terran, 99% of the Terrans, will play tanks. They'll make many tanks, because tanks are really good against Hydra Bane in general, and that's how you want to be playing. Now, sometimes they'll still throw in a mine here and there to deal with run bys, but in general, the main army composition is gonna exist out of tanks, because tanks are just extremely powerful against Hydralisk, because there's no Mutas on the way, you don't need Thors. The mines are okay-ish, but not quite as useful, because Hydras can outrange them, of course. Now, once again, we have Aki moving a little too far forward, loses another army basically on creep. Sieges up 2 Liberators. Floating a solid 2.6k minerals, and 12 minutes into the game. Don't forget, first we were at 53 workers, and now we're already at 61 workers. And I think that was at the 8-minute mark. So he managed to produce 7 workers off of 5 orbitals in 4 minutes. Yeah, in 4 minutes. So that means per orbital, that is about 1 worker per 3 minutes. Now that is very impressive, because you know that you can build 5 workers per minute with Terran. So I'm just a little bit confused exactly how he thinks his opponent. I mean, if I was him and I wouldn't pay attention to building SCVs either, I'd also be confused. Like, man, like my trades aren't even that bad, and he's playing so safe. Like his fourth base was super late, man. Like your third base is barely saturated. Your fourth base hasn't even really started yet. Like, it doesn't really matter how late your opponent's fourth base is if you're never getting a fourth base in general. It's like complaining your opponent doesn't have a third when you're 1 base all in. It's like, mate, he doesn't need to. Like, you literally have no workers. Like, what are you gonna do here? Well, the answer is absolutely nothing. Mines are being spread, Liberators are out as well, which I'm not the biggest hater of Liberators, but I feel like it's a bit too soon, you know? Usually you see Liberators later on in the game once the Terran has a good position, a decent tank count, and perhaps starts thinking about Ghost as well. You see stuff like Ghost Liberator, but in this case, I mean, there's just a single tank. Oh, we're actually going to be seeing a drop. Now this is kind of intense. Fly straight into the Overseer. Nice. Oh wow. Is that a French voice? Amazing. So we have, what do you call it? Advanced ballistics on the way as well. Another double drop heading out right now. And actually, he's doing a fine job macroing, right? Like, he's spending his money a bit better than the Zerg is. The Zerg is floating 6k resources, and our UK Terran is only floating 4k resources. So really, he's doing a way better job when it comes to that. Of course, he's also mining less, so the rate of spending is probably very similar. Now, we actually have 2 drops on the way, and this is where the multitask of the Terran comes in. Let's just have a look at the famous Terran multitask. So he's maxed. Comes the first macro. Sees that it dies, gives it up. Okay, fair play, you know? Actually, okay, gets a little bit of damage now. That's good trade. Good first trade. Second part of the army dies, but gets a hatchery altogether. Pretty good. Pretty good, right? Pretty good trade. I'd be happy with this if I was the Terran, honestly. You killed the 5th base. Once again, denying one of the outside bases. Absolutely destroying the Zerg. The Zerg actually has... What the hell? Why does he have so little supply? Because he has a lot of banelings and he lost all of his Hydras just now. I just love this move out. There's not a single medevac with this army. There's 2 medevacs coming back now. Liberators are still just defending this part. So there's like 30 supply defending this area. Then there's 30 supply defending this area. Nothing is defending the fort base. So any type of run by would win. He is right though, there's infinite creep. And there's infinite creep is because he hasn't once tried to actually kill some creep. I don't think he's actually, like, how many tumors does he have? Like maybe 15? Oh, he has 60 tumors killed. Jesus. Creep is broken, guys. I mean, he killed 60 tumors and the game still isn't over. That's actually surprising. Look at this. This little 4.3k Zerg player over here. Literally better creep spread than Terran. That is quite something. I think Uki might be onto something. The creep? No, I was gonna make fun of him for not killing too many tumors, but damn boy was I wrong. Actually, nothing has happened this game though. Aki is literally playing the campaign and he's angry that the AI has improved so much and he can't beat the AI anymore. Like, there is missions where you just need to hold on against waves of Zergs. And that's pretty much how Aki plays ladder as well. It's like, alright, what's the next wave? You know, and he tries to craft the perfect army to deal with everything. Like Marine Marauder, Liberator Mine, single tank, and no planetaries, but I want more money for mules. And then he just keeps holding back wave after wave after wave, and he just hopes that he gets the win eventually, that the Zerg takes such a bad engagement that he can counterattack without really having to micro ever again. Vipers flying forward, some solid yoinks, but honestly, once again, I don't think this was too bad a fight for Aki. Like, he clears everything. He finally has his fort base up. He right now is mining from one and a half base, literally 1.5 base. So no matter how good his traits are, he's always going to be in kind of a crap spot, right? So no matter how good his traits are, he's always going to be in a bit of a crap spot, honestly. Like, he's mined out his main, his natural, his third is about to be mined out. So he actually mined a decent amount of minerals, but he's just always going to be bases down as long as he doesn't get to clear any of the creep. Because what Della Beat is doing is he's just taking base by base, staying on a pretty low worker count as well. But at least he's always going to be able to get bases. I mean, if you compare it with Aki here, who is having trouble establishing a fort base with an orbital command. It's just sad to see that, like, 3-4 tanks here would be super helpful. Or the 7-8 tanks would be super helpful as well. Or even using all the mines you have in the back. Or the mines that are with your army, just burrowing them. You know, there's so many things that are going wrong here. That's really quite painful to watch. I mean, he's just wasting so much supply on things that shouldn't be happening. Once again, no medevacs at all on the map. Like, every single fight, he just stays until he loses every single unit. And it's like, okay, I've lost every single unit, now I'm allowed to build a new army again. And he starts basically from scratch again. Every single time. It's super frustrating to watch. Because it makes absolutely no sense as well. It's like, why the hell would you play like this, dude? It actually makes zero sense. The way you want to be playing is, you want to try to preserve as much of the good units from your army as possible. If you realize you're losing a fight, like, you can just fly back with the medevacs, right? Kitty's building more liberators, nothing else. Floating 4k minerals, 900 gas. Now you could say, sure, the Zerg also is floating, but I mean, Zerg has worse units lost, but just mined more resources. And still has a pretty decent army. How many larvas does it? 22 larvae. This is one of those things I can never understand. If you have the larva available, yeah, you can just spend them. Like, the injecting is the hard part. But, sorry, back to the Terran. Another command center could be helpful to maybe try and take a 5th base here with a planetary at some point. Like a double drop over here. I mean, there's a couple of spines, but you could just kill that. Should be no problem. You have 3 Marines. The one problem that Aki has over here is, of course, that he has no medevac. So any kind of pressure is going to be with Marines that are completely overstimmed, with Liberators, which will be spotted a mile away, because actually the entire map is covered in creep. 77 creep tumors have died so far this game. I'm actually honestly quite impressed. 77 creep. Creep might actually be too strong. I'm leaning towards it, guys. If this guy, who is a 4.4k player who can't spend his minerals, is building this much creep, it might actually just be too powerful. My boy Aki here has been working hard on killing the creep. Sure, he doesn't have no medevac. Sure, his macro hasn't been perfect. Sure, he forgot to produce SCVs for majority of the game. Isn't really getting gas on the 3rd or the 4th base. And I'm sure there's a host of other problems with this play, but the creep, man, it's massive. Oh, here comes the classic marine mine run by onto creep. Big stim. Now, how many more times can he do this before they just fall down due to exhaustion? Oh, water scan. Here we go. A couple more tumors. Whoop. Mine shoots. No, does not shoot. If there were medivacs here, perhaps he could have picked it up. That would have been real nice, actually. 2 more Vikings on the way right now. I feel like if you realize you have to build this many air units, it might be wise to just throw down a 2nd starport. But then, you know, he would actually need to take gases. Oh, he does it. He realized it as well. He's like, wait a second, I only have 4 medevacs, playing against 8 broodlords and 10 corruptors. Perhaps the answer would be to get gas, because right now I have 0 gas mining. That might be an issue. I'm not sure if this guy is trolling or not. You mean there's a big fight here? I don't even know what to say. This game is so good. Yeah, Banelings will roll in. There's no micro whatsoever. GG. I mean, I'm not sure if Aki is serious, right? My man Aki, first of all, what we need to work on over here is the first minute and a half, or the first 2 minutes. You had some weird build order. I didn't like that very much. Second of all, what's up with the SCV production, man? Get it together. You're building no workers, you have 3 CCs, you're slow as crap. Third, the way you build your structure, double CC, late 2nd factory, 6 racks before 4th CC, no gases on the 3rd base, unit composition, where were your tanks? Like you can just get ghost if you see Vipers as well. You know, pew, EMP or snipe, whatever you want to do. With that enhanced shockwave, it's real easy to hit. So against Hydra Bane, you could just play like tank, lip, ghost or something like that. You're gonna be absolutely fine, my dude. But yeah, tanks are good. Like if you are getting mines, use them rather than having them to defend the 3rd base with 14 mines and 4 liberators. You could use sensor towers as well, don't forget that. You could wall at your 3rd base, which is helpful. You should take gases at your 3rd base. You should multitask. You completely forgot to clear creep whatsoever. Well, okay, wait. I catch myself once again. That's actually not true, because you did try to clear creep, but there was just too many tumors. Now, that possibly could be, and this might just be a suggestion, that you are literally playing the campaign. Like you actually never attacked. You were just defending wave after wave after wave. And I'm telling you, even a gold or, well, in this case, a diamond player is going to have the best creep spread in the world if he's going to just be allowed to sit there for what seems to be 30 minutes straight. It's like he just literally sat there and said, all right, you're not going to clear my creep, or you're not going to move on the map or distract me in any type of way. All right, another tumor. Like this guy had so much time. He was just slowly taking bases. He was, you know, he probably was doing other things at the same time, honestly. Like you were sweating over there. It's like, sweaty microing marines forgetting to build SCVs, and he was feeding his kid, man. This guy was having an absolute blast. So yeah, all together, yeah, you suck. Suck pretty hard. That ain't too nice. Alright, if you did enjoy this episode of Is It Imba or Do I Suck, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel up there. And otherwise, check out some of my other videos over here. Nice.